This is day 524 of the Arukh HaShulchan Yomi. If you like to sponsor upcoming shir of the Arukh HaShulchan Yomi or more, please contact me directly. It'd be very greatly appreciated. Today we're still in Siman Shin test. We're going to be at least through the end of the week. And we are doing today Yud Aleph through Yud Zayin. Yud Aleph. V'zel Shal Rambam. Habor Ochem Tov So, somebody removes the food from the refuse. Oh, show you in front of Shnemin Echochin, or you have two types of food in front of him. Bor min echad. Min acher, you select one type out of another type. Benofa Gvara, if you're using a strainer or a sieve, Chayav, you're liable. Bekana Tamchui, which are the different types of bowls or spoons, properly exempt. Brer Biyado Echol Alter, if you use your hand to eat immediately, that's permissible. Somebody removes the refuse from the food even with one hand, Chayav, he's liable for a chatos. Somebody who removes food from refuse, but it's in order to leave it even for later that day, it's as if you're selecting for the purpose of warehousing, the Chayav, and you're liable. If you have two types of food mixed together, you select one from the other, and put it down to eat immediately. If you select it and left it for after a time, even if it's the same day, such as you select in the morning, tea in the afternoon, you're liable. We learn from the words of Rambam. Anytime it's not to eat immediately. No matter what, no matter how you're doing it, so that's biyad. It's bore, and you're chayiv. If you want to eat immediately, then mutar livor is allowed to select biyado with your hand. The food out of the refuse and eat it. And but a sieve or a strainer, you're chayiv. The kind of tamchui, as say four types of spoons or bowls, no, that's not correct. It's like a funnel, which has a broad pipe in the back and thin pipe in the front. The other way around. It's a broad pipe in the front and a thin pipe in the back. Those say kidneys im hapsolas, and you put in them the legumes with their refuse. Makom rachav in the wider place. You shake it. Vakidneys mitoshu ogol novel derech piva kotzer, and the legumes, since they're round, they fall through the funnel. And the refuse remains on top. It's not chiyav tatas who have a breira kalachayat. This is not the normal way to do breira. It's in the Eikar breira the primary way to do breira is with a strainer or a sieve. If you remove the refuse, even with one hand, I feel biyado, even with a hand, you're chayiv, not just with keli. Much as part of this is true about two types of food, as shall be clarified. Yud base. So mani kol alta. What's called for immediate use? Kosar ben Ramah. But you're selecting for that meal which you are sitting down to eat. Miyad, immediately. Mikrem alta. That's called immediate. Vafil achem ochlin moshari. Even if other people eat it with him, it's permissible to do for them. If you're allowed to remove the lettuce from its wilted or rotted leaves, as much as you need for that meal. We learn from the Ramah. Anything prepared before the meal, for the people who are going to sit down to the meal, that cannot be called breira. The brios ochlim is dafka, but of course has to be selecting the food from the refuse specifically, and not vice versa. That's why you're careful not to remove the wilted leaves. Even they can be eaten with difficulty. since you don't want to eat them at all now, so those are considered to be the refuse. Sharei afilu v'shnei ochlin gurim kenu, because it's true even about two types of real food. The Braxton says, "Zesh kosesh mutar gam b'shul acher." That would you say mutar also for others. The Vur Bagmar Sham Bora Bachel Altar Bora Miniach Altar says you can do bora and eat immediately, and bora and put down immediately was put down. We see you can't put down for later because the place is bora miniach utzorach acherim. I am sham. So they says it's borer umeniach for others, but for that self same meal. You can when Shon Rabbeinu but he says B'Shulchan Aruch Lashon Rambam. But he says right to the Rambam. The brand is bar the pain bochum to so in that words it comes clear that whether you're selecting food from refuse or food from food. When you are selecting with your hand to eat, and immediately in the meal which you're about to eat, that's permissible to do. Being bora for afterwards, it doesn't matter. Anytime after this current meal, not time issue, but meal issue. So then, Naskabar Otsa, it's as if you're doing bora for warehousing, b'chayim, and it's the Raisa problem. But I have a very difficult, a very great inference from the words. Well, actually, an inference which is difficult. So that's why by food refuse, because they wrote, somebody who takes refuse out of food to put it down. Sorry. Why by Obatov Soles they wrote because somebody who selects food out of refuse, Lanicho to leave it, I feel even for later that day, not it's like being borer for warehousing and it's chayv. And yet on the other hand, when you're selecting food from food, kasvu, it will be rare, b'niach la'achazman. I feel bo bayom. If you did borer and you left for after a time, I feel bayom in for the subsequent day. Kigon, such as shebur shachris lechol me'arbaim, which is a lot longer than between than for right after the meal. From morning to afternoon, chayiv, akan shono. V'lama lo kasvu lashon zeh mikodim, barachim b'toch psolos. Why is it right there, ba'ochim b'toch ochel, not ba'ochim b'toch psolos? You got v'yer and you zayti nei Rabbeinu Yosef to see for a good comment. I'll say the Beis Yosef it deals with this. Because he writes, the lashon zeh mashma from this language it indicates the b'bora ochim b'toch psolos when you remove food from refuse. I feel bir lecho sholosh arba shos even if you're going to borer to eat. For 3 or 4 hours later, within 3 or 4 hours, you're chayiv, you're liable. But with food out of food, ain't chayiv can't be a shakas elchol ben arbaim. The chayiv is the burn in the morning for the afternoon, presumably, which is a gap of more than 3 or 4 hours. But he doesn't understand where the Ram gets this distinction. Being low key vain, and if you didn't mean this, why do you not? So write the same language by both. The daito who l'rak la'achar chayiv, and his opinion, the Beis Yosef writes that even if it's just for an hour later, you're ready chayiv. Chinkus Mordechai and Sham. He said to me, "He came lama gam hu b'shor kasel lashon zeh." The Shulchan Aruch he didn't write an hour; he wrote the same language as the Rambam. He said a little particular, so it's not clear to him that right after an hour you're ready chayiv. Tezvav l'chein yelin yuzayti the baalei kain hu. It's like this. With food from food, it's only from morning till afternoon. The Mishnah writes that also if there is if it's there's a long if it's a long time after your afternoon meal. Same idea as between morning and afternoon. But that's not the deal with food from refuse. It's clear from the Gemara. The Bryce and the Shnei Oichlin, and the Bryce talks about 2 types of food. Ula explains that this is what it's saying. Bora of ochel bo bayom, you can be bora and leave for that day and eat that day. Bora meniach bo bayom, you can bora and leave for that day. Well, Macha Lifer, it should not be borrowed for tomorrow. Being beer and if do borrow for tomorrow, Chayav Chatas, Lab do Chatas. Umakshel, or Chisda asked, what kind of heter is this? The Bobayom? Chimutal Fos Bayom, you got to bake if it's for the same day? The Chimutal Bashal Bayom, you got to cook if it's for the same day? And Chakakamukla Abai, to the point that Abai later sets it up, Borev Ochel Altar, Bor Meniach Altar. You can eat borer and eat immediately, borer and leave it immediately. Ubobayom lo yivror, but for the self same day you should not do brera. Pimpira chayav, if you do brera, you are chayav. V'yesh lo in my day to do ula. We have to understand what is ula's perspective here. Who said bar v'ochel bobayom, bar minich bobayom, machar lo yivror. According to ula, you can do it for later in the day, just not for tomorrow. So what's the point of ula? I have to later also as malacha below bobayom. Doesn't he now do malacha for the self-same later in the self-same day? No, he can't who, but rather this is the matter. The vade bebor ochim to social zeu etzem meleches habrega. We're removing food from the refuse, which is the actual or most characteristic type of brera. Gam ula hu savar the shabar al achar sho chayev. Also, ula concedes that if you do it for an hour later, you're chayev. When you borrow food from food and they're both completely edible, but we call refuse that one which he doesn't want to eat right now. Ula said, Ola held that that's only called psoles if you don't want to eat it all today, but only tomorrow. So then the other food stuff from which you are selecting is to be psolis. But when you bring borer to eat on that same day, lav plumu, it's not considered to be borer. The shema is because you can always change your mind and decide to eat the second fruit. Rav Chisda for a zoop, but Rav Chisda disagrees with this. Pirish guy gone bobayom chayiv, and Bayo says that even if bobayom you're liable. But we don't make an extraordinary, a polar machloikas between Ula and on one hand and Chisda by on the other hand. And this is also logical. You require in any event from meal to meal. In other words, even though ochel is chayav bo bayom, but it's only if it's to the next meal. In other words, shachris is ben abayim. It's more definite. Shachris said omar ochel, and it's possible to call this ochel, even though they're both fruits. So this one ochel because you can eat it in the morning. But the second one you can call the refuse. It's not going to eat it now. But until after 1 or 2 or 3 hours, you can't call the second one refuse yet. Maybe by the time next meal rolls around, he'll might also eat the second substance. And he says in the brackets, even though it's the outside of the Gemara, doesn't mean specifically, literally, immediately, because rather that means that if he's it's not considered to be it's not the same as ochel psos unless an hour or 2 or 3 is going to elapse before you get around to the second type of food. Tesayim v'day shno the Ram psos itoch ochel chayav. Ram holds anytime you take refuge from food you're liable. Located as the Tur. That is not the opinion of the Tur. This really holds the Ima Ochem Ruba Borab Soles holds that if there's more food, then you select the refuse. Well, now this Ella the Ochem Ruba sounds like the same thing. I see. It's a beginning sentence. Blow down the Ochem Ruba. Not that, but when there's more food, you select the refuse. If there's more refuse, not even allowed to carry this container. She'ochel bata b'solas, the food is negated by the refuse. When can you remove the food and leave the refuse? When really the food is more. But in the toil of selecting, there is more tircha it's more troublesome to select the refuse. Going through dock, such as is very fine. There, even though the ochel is the majority, you take the ochel and leave the soul sign shop. That's the basis perspective. A person will agree with this. That's why the Shulchan writes in Sif Dalet. Habar psolos mitoch ochel, same moves refuse from food. I feel beyond echad, even by one hand, it's high reliable. Even the food is more. Has more toil to remove the ochel. I feel like labor so still you can't select the refuse. I feel like they echel out in order to eat the food immediately. Hakal Shalom. And this is to reject the Torah. Which the Torah wrote. The psolas meruba, when there's more refuse than food. Also, the tatlo, you're not allowed to move it. The bata barov, because it's the food is negated by the refuse. Hishmito gankin. Shulchan Aruch leaves this out as well. The Tambor, and the reason for the Shulchan Aruch left out is clear. The Eich Shaf, Bittul Ochel B'Psos, how can you be Mavatal the food in the refuse? But Bar Kocha ain't a batil, by definition, it's not batil. That's what you're going to eat. It's the definition of having food. Sometimes comes like in Psolas. Magami Psolas, really Machal Behemar, and certainly if the Psolas is suitable, whoever is suitable for an animal to eat, you're allowed to move everything. You find Kosar Ben Amar B'Sif Gimel. The Shnei Minei Dog and Mika Shnei Minei Echad. Two types of fish called two types of food. Also, Libor Echad Mechaver not cannot select one for the other. El Biyado, only with your hand, Kedei Ochem Yad, in order to eat immediately. Ava Bishach Hatichos Gedoyles, even though they're big pieces. Shkol Echad Nikar Shkol Echad Nikar Sinatzo, each one's recognizable set by itself. Ava Koshim mean Echad, but if it's all one type of fish, Ava Pi Sheborer Hatichos Zoytos, even though they're selecting large pieces from the small pieces. Lo mikra bread, it's not called borer. Even if there are two types, but you're selecting from both of them together, like those the big pieces and the small pieces, or vice versa, sharetz missile. Hovena borer mean echo mitolabero. So it's not selecting one type out of the other type, just size from size. Kermit was a dashing. Ubir Sham, the Jewish dash explains, Avagab lichora shem breira lo shayach. Well, actually, sarbu shem nikor. I mean, the category of brayers should not be relevant, only when they're mixed up and not recognizable. Came more Lashon of Mordechai, it seems that Mordechai says, and came out of Doni Chatikos go, so since the fish is in big pieces, so each one is recognizable itself, Lo Shayach Brera. As we said, beginning of the simon, that would not be considered brayra. Come, Elaka below Raya Bura and Shamneva Skamineko without definitive proof. Tichos Sasam Rabbeinu Haramah, that's what Ramah left this, left halacha this way. Because it's not nikah b'fnei atzma. Come near line use daiti to davka shetichos move. It's only if there are a lot of pieces. But the 4 or 5 pieces, will take 1 or 2. Don't make great brera. It's finish. Brera is only if there's a substantial amount of pieces. Mishabur doesn't agree with that. Mishabur writes generically. You have to make sure when there's several types of birds on the table. And if you boret to remove them the same Motzei Shabbos, you have to boret the ones you want to eat now from the other ones, which will be Motzei Shabbos and not vice versa. But the Ramah, I'm not sure Mishnah arguing could be there's different numbers of pieces, but the Oral Shulchan simply writes that there's a few pieces, then you can. You take 1 or 2, and then that's Uncle Brera. And the Oral Shulchan continues. Sometimes every day, they bring on the plate animal and bird meats, animal chicken, beef and chicken. The volumes they mean there's certainly 2 different types. No tells the balas abayis then goes makora, and the balas abayis takes the chicken from the plate. Latznia. to save it l'Shabbat for the morning. And so too in fish when you're taking two types, como hecht, the slaying, whatever those are. She takes one or two, three pieces from the plate. Let's see how Shabbos to save it tomorrow morning. Uvlo kavon, they'll tell us to eat nechon. Without intent, she takes it simply from one type. I'm clearly yesh b'zeh chashash breira. Would there be a type of breira in this? El vadi kedamran. It's when we're selecting type from type. V'dayin yishol zel push lafil b'min echad. Even in one type, in tzaz chashim achila. There's a seed, but some of them are hard to eat for some reason. Having themselves in there like refuse. Tabun chamutzim and bitter apples, umasukim, and together with sweet apples. Sheshnei murim lachil, if they're both suitable to eat. Nearly glumik shnei murim. They're not called two minim. People go. Mishabur designed that by apples and pickled fruit and vegetables and sweets. But I'm not sure if it's min echad or not. But the Arukh HaShulchan says that the sour apples and sweet apples are not called two minim, so obviously it's different than Mishabur. Ava tapuchim ubernis, but apples and whatever bernis are, havish minim, there are two types. When they're on the plate, maybe it's a bread of grain, and of wheat. I guess the other grains and wheat. Having is two different types. But grain and grain, even though one is more finely milled, sintitza, there's still considered to be one type. Brackets of a mess, goes back to the argument. If we're going to say bread about any two types of food, even there's a very small amount, not leaving life for anybody. To say that. Also was another kula. Brera is the only way you do it in the manner of selecting. Careful analysis. Leave roars them, he said, to choose one for the other. But just removing it, see, remove lo shaykh brera. Brera is not relevant to that case, which is a big kula.